Now back to the Bible Answer Man broadcast and your host, Hank Hanegraaff.
Thank you very much, Randy. We are addressing today the issue of worry because this is precisely what Jesus addresses in the last part of Matthew chapter 6. And Jesus is pointing out, as I said just before we went to break, that those who worry lack faith. And that, of course, raises a question. What constitutes a lack of faith? And as I said, whenever I think about this subject, I think about Job. Job, who experienced the ultimate test of faith. In the span of just a few hours, think about it. His servants were slaughtered. His possessions were stolen. His children perished in a collapsing house. And that was just the beginning of sorrows. Within days, his body was covered from top to bottom. He had painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. And then his wife turned against him. She said, "Curse God and die." On top of that, his friends attacked him. They had these insufferable speeches like, "Surely God does not reject a blameless man." And through those speeches, they taunted him. What Job did not know is that he was the subject of an extreme test of faith. God affirmed Job's faith as being firm and faultless. Satan assailed Job's faith as fickle and fleeting. He said, "Stretch out your hand and strike everything he has. And then, Job, will surely God curse you to your face."
Are Christians guilty of blind faith? Read Hank Hanegraaff's book, Has God Spoken? Click on the eye above.
So in this cosmic context, you have a contest. Job, in the contest, responds with remarkable resolve. You can imagine that emotionally, he was on a roller coaster. His mind was desperately searching for answers, and yet in the end, he personified extreme faith because he took his fate and fortune and he placed that on the trustworthiness of God. His eternal perspective forever enshrined in words that are inherently memorable. "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. I won't worry." With the shield of faith in hand, Job was able to stand strong and steadfast against persecutions and temptations and even against the blasphemous thoughts that Satan kept whispering into his ears. Well, when all was said and done, the sinister serpent was able to scorch Job's shield of faith, but unable to sear his soul. Little wonder then that in addition to truth and righteousness and peace, Paul urges us in Ephesians chapter 6 to take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one, including the arrow of worry. If you think about the ancient shield of an ancient soldier, that shield enveloped the body. And in a similar fashion, faith envelops the entirety of our being. So when Satan attacks our heads, the hand of faith holds fast to truth. When Satan attacks our hearts, the hand of faith holds fast to righteousness. Faith is ultimately rooted and grounded in the very nature of God Himself. And nothing is more crucial to the Christian faith than a proper understanding of who God is. In Christian theology, God is portrayed as the sovereign of the universe. He's described as spirit, as perfectly wise, self-sufficient, omnipotent, omniscient. The Bible depicts Him as the one who sees all and knows all from all eternity, as the one who wields supreme and absolute authority. And therefore, in biblical vernacular, faith is a channel of living trust and assurance that stretches from a human being to their God. In other words, it is the object of faith that renders faith faithful, and God is the object of our faith. And the greatest demonstration of faith is always in trusting God even when we do not understand. It's the sort of confidence that was exemplified by our hero Job as he persevered in the midst of affliction, trusting God despite a whirlwind that threatened to blow his life into oblivion. And likewise, it is the trait most demonstrated in the life of the Apostle Paul, who not only fought the good fight, but also finished the race and kept the faith. His faith, like that of Job, was not fixed on temporary circumstances, but on the trustworthiness of his Creator. I love Hebrews chapter 11. It's the faith hall of fame, a hall filled with men and women who trusted God even when they did not understand.
Access more than 1,500 free articles on Christianity, cults, and aberrant religious teaching. Go to equip.org or click on the eye above.
You probably know the list: Gideon and Barak, Samson and Jephthah, David and Samuel. The prophets, collectively, those through faith who conquered kingdoms, who despite being tortured and jeered and flogged, chained, put in prison, stoned, put to death, destitute, persecuted, mistreated, yet they were commended for their faith because their faith was fixed on God. Faith is of paramount importance because it is the grace with which you can extinguish, as St. Paul says, all the flaming arrows of the evil one. And that's not an uncertain promise. Rather, it is divine assurance that faith equips you and I to escape the very extremities of evil. This is how St. John puts it. He says, "This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith." The world fuels an unholy trinity, the cravings of our sinful nature, the lust of our eyes, the boasting of what we have and what we can do. The shield of faith, however, extinguishes the flames. Faith focuses on the permanent pleasures of paradise rather than the pseudo-pleasures of the present world. It binds the unclean eye that lusts after pornography and wealth. It deadens the pride of life that covets praise from men far more than praise from God. The eye of faith looks at life with eternity in mind. It looks back to our hero Job, who blazed a trail of faith for all of us to follow. And it looks forward as well to the promise of eternity when temptations will be no more. So says Jesus, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all of these things, and your heavenly Father knows you need them. Instead, we're to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to us as well. Jesus ends this segment of the Sermon on Worry by saying, therefore do not worry about tomorrow. Why? Because tomorrow can worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So again, we are not to worry. Worry is a demonstration of a lack of faith. Well, we are going to continue next time. We're in Matthew's Gospel with the last chapter, chapter 7. You may want to take some time to read it on your own. Maybe even do more than read it. Read and reread it, ponder it, maybe even memorize it.